Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Nintendo Pipeline Podcast. I'm your host for this week, Mina, and joining me today we got...
I guess
Will.
I'll go. Oh, okay. You see, you got a motion toward one of us, so we're not going to know which one to go first.
I just... maybe we should have gone over it before, but, it's fine.
Whatever. He's Will, I'm James.
Both of them have been on the podcast before. Friends of the pod, Splendor and James, Will.
Uh-huh.
You can call Splendor Will.
That's me.
You'll notice my usual comrades are not here with me today. Jared and Clay, One Up Muffin, and CMM. They were like, I don't like Pocket Monsters. I think it's for babies. And so they didn't want to be on.
Clay doesn't like RPGs in general because he's a nerd.
He thinks that RPGs are for losers in their basements, And
What's that? What's that old quote?
Yeah, Yamauchi being like, I forget the exact quote. It's for sad people, depressed people who
play video
in their
games
dark
in the
rooms.
dark.
Yeah, yeah, I like to play games in the dark.
He's not been disproven yet, to be honest.
Yeah, it's hasn't been disproven yet.
I'm sitting in a dark room that I've been playing video games in all day, so I don't know.
So today we're all recording from our dark rooms to talk about this RPG. So Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. These are remakes of the DS games Diamond and Pearl. Yeah. Very faithful remakes.
Correct.
So faithful that they ignore Pokemon Platinum, funnily enough. These are Diamond and Pearl remakes. So let's just get that out of the way. This is not a Platinum remake, and there's no Platinum content in that, but it is what it is. Despite that, I have been really surprised at how much I've been enjoying this game. I don't know about you guys.
Yes. I think it is like an objectively bad decision to not include platinum changes. But I think it's almost more interesting because I have not gone back to Diamond and Pearl for so long, because whenever I go back to play Gen 4, I just do platinum, right? So there's so much that I'm like, oh yeah, this is what this game was like when it came out, right? But they have done a couple things that do alleviate some of those worries, right? Mostly having to do with the underground and Pokemon variety. But I think Gen 4 is like, it is still very unique in like the scope of Pokemon in terms of like the way that they lay out some of the region and some of the balance of the game is very different. And so it has been neat to go back to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, here's the thing. I haven't really played a Gen 4 game since, well, I guess Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out after Platinum, but I haven't played one of the original trilogy
Sinnoh
of
games.
Gen 4 games, the Sinnoh games, sure, since Platinum came out. I mean, Platinum was actually the last time I did a full Pokedex, a full national Pokedex, but like actually playing through the campaign of one of these games, been a long time. I barely remembered anything. And it actually occurred to me, because I thought I really loved Sinnoh, and I really did enjoy it again on this revisit, but I realized that most of my enjoyment of those games was like all vibe related. Like the vibes of the vibes of the towns, the day and night cycles returning with different music for day and night, and like the route music in general. Like I feel like Diamond and Pearl is where like kind of like the modern vibe of Pokemon started, at least with the music, because the music before that, like even in the GBA games, but especially in the Game Boy Color games, was a little more like raw sounding, and a little less like comfy. I feel like Diamond and Pearl is where the games got comfy, and that's more what I was remembering from it. So as far as Platinum stuff being in it or not being in it, at this point I couldn't tell you if it was in it or not because I don't remember.
Because you just don't remember it. Yeah, no, that's totally fair. It's funny because like I'm someone who very much knows like the differences between the two, right? Gen 4 is my favorite region, Pokemon Platinum, like Sinnoh, or was. I don't know if it still is, to be honest. I honestly think that for me, the biggest thing was Pokemon variety. And while the route variety on Diamond Pearl does kind of suck, right?
Yeah.
Like, Bidoof are on every goddamn route. But The underground helped a lot. Like, just the fact that I was able to use a Houndoom made me feel good. So yeah, I honestly, I've been fascinated revisiting them in their original forms because I've never actually played them. I've only played Platinum. Like, I know everything that Platinum changed, but I only had to ever play Platinum. So it was interesting to play like the original experience. But besides the Platinum stuff not being there, it's been an interesting revisit because I think Sinnoh Gen 4 is the games I have the most nostalgia for. Easy, generally the Pokemon games you have the most nostalgia for, you were roughly around the age of 10, right?
Sure,
10 to 12. Yeah. And that's what these games are for me, right? So I've never been able to critically look at Gen 4,
Sure.
It's always been like just very much I just love these games because this is my childhood, I will say I think BDSP has made me realize a lot of the flaws of this game, but they don't necessarily hurt the experience for me any, because I think James put it in a really good way. These games are really fucking comfy, like there's just a nice cozy feel to these games. I think there's something I didn't even realize that this would happen to me, but like I don't know, there's something nice to just playing a traditional top-down chibi Pokemon game with with random encounters, I think that alone has been honestly like very nostalgia inducing, I think.
Sure.
And just the general vibe, and I think the music is a big part of it, right? The music, oh man, the music is I think the remixes have been excellent in this remake, right? And just the whole vibe of Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, it's just been I feel like I'm at home,
Yeah, I mean, I think because, like you said, Pokemon, the discourse is so centered around cycles, and this is gonna happen, and this is gonna happen, right? The Switch era has just fucking thrown all that out the window.
Oh yeah.
And so the assumption was for a very long time for a lot of people, this Gen 4 remakes will be in the style of Sword and Shield.
Yeah.
And
that's how they've always been, right? Remakes have always
Yeah.
been the style of that generation of games, right?
For better or worse, yes.
Yeah.
And so to get remakes that are like, no, this is not in the Gen 8 style. This is very much, we are trying to recreate the original experience as much as possible, has been fascinating,
And it's because, Pokemon is sort of, it does not reinvent the wheel a ton, right? But in the last couple gens, Pokemon has done a lot of changing, right? And so, like you said, there is now a novelty to going back to top-down Pokemon in the way that there wasn't for Heart Gold, Soul Silver, or for Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, right? I mean, and like this game is, like you said, going back as a person that now has more like formalized Pokemon thoughts on the things that I look for, right? This game does have stuff, and we can get to it, right? That is not there, that I tend to look for in a game, like you said, like variety of Pokemon and new routes, stuff like that. But the things that are there, I think, like James said, are so much in the tone, the vibe, the presentation, and sort of like it's a very charming video game. Like it just every part of it you look at and you say, man, like this is either cute or it's neat or it's just like you're not having your mind be blown, but you're smiling most of the time that you're playing it. Which is all you can ask for a game like this.
Yeah, well, a couple things. First of all, I'm a little bit older than both of you, so I was actually my 10-year-old Pokemon experience was literally Red and Blue. They came out when I was literally 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I can look critically at those games very easily. Those games are bad. I love them in a way, and they're certainly fascinating relics for their time, but they're borderline unplayable today by most modern standards.
We're in an interesting spot here, James. Not to interrupt your point. But we're now in a position where I think the young people are going to defend Red and Blue, where the person that played it as a kid is going to call it.
Yeah, because I'm a sicko for Red and Blue. I played it for the first time in 2016, and I thought, this is what Pokemon is.
Yeah, Mina's a Red and Blue truther.
I'm not going to get into it, but I'm a sicko for Red and Blue.
Yeah, I don't know. I bought Yellow on the 3DS eShop and started playing it, and when I got to that PC interface, I
Oh,
was
the
like,
PC is the hardest thing. The PC is the hardest thing to go back to for sure. Yeah.
um, but
But I'll interrupt your point. Sorry.
aside from all of that, I think what's kind of interesting now that we've gotten to the remakes of Gen 4 is Gen 4 is kind of when Pokemon modernized to the point that it hasn't changed that much, like the
Yes.
base systems. So it's harder to look back on those games as like borderline unplayable because I think that someone
because
could.
they're very good, right? They're still very good.
Aside from the game speed, like if someone were to go back and play Platinum today, not Diamond and Pearl, because those games are very slow and they have their issues with like the way the engine runs. But if you were to go back and play Platinum or even Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you're probably going to have a pretty alright time. They're not old enough that they're like busted in the way that a game from the 90s is.
I think to me the biggest advancements that Pokemon has made that make it harder to go back to older games is the box system from Gen 3, right?
Yep.
And then the physical special split in Gen 4.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
I think having those inherently, like, I think, to me, the physical special split is really, like, the last, like, truly, like, it's really hard to go back before this point, you know? So Gen 4 is firmly, like, you can go back to Platinum and have a great time, for sure, right?
Yeah.
Which makes these games interesting, right? Because, you know, you would think, oh, well, since those games are very playable, does it make sense to do such a one-to-one remake? But
in a way, it kind of does because I don't know. Like there was a GameSpot ad circulating recently. I guess they're trying to get rid of their stock of like DS and PS3 and 360 games. They're doing like a buy two get two free on used games. And one of the games they showed in the ad was Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl, and those cartridges are $75 a piece. So,
yeah.
So maybe it does make sense to make it this way. And I actually think it kind of makes sense to make it this way and not in the Gen 8 style, because I think if you were to try to create Sinnoh's roots in Sword and Shield's engines, I just don't think it would work very well. I think that you would get more shortened, more simplified roots that people would be really upset about because they were already upset with how short and simplified Sword and Shields were.
Yeah, and I think inherently, because I've seen a lot of people being like, oh, well, instead of this, I wish we got a Sword and Shield engine remake, right? But it's not instead of BDSP. We would have gotten that instead of Pokemon Legends, you know? Because the amount of effort it would have taken to make a Sword and Shield style remake of Diamond and Pearl would have taken Game Freak's entire apparatus, right?
Yeah.
And so you know, I feel like, honestly, Sinnoh arguably is getting the best treatment, in my opinion, that any like, sure, I don't think BDSP reaches the heights of I think Heart Gold and Soul Silver are the gold standard for Pokemon remake, right?
Sure.
But I think Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl plus Pokemon Legends, the fact that we're getting both of these games, like, Gen 4 fans are feasting at that point, you know? Like, these two games go hand in hand with each other, you know? So the fact that we do get this very nostalgic, very, you know, one-to-one remake, but also get this crazy new thing in Sinnoh just 2 months later, to me, that's actually fantastic.
Well, and I think another important thing to remember is that while the previous remakes were done in the engine of whatever the current generation of Pokemon games were, the Fire Red Leaf Green was still a top-down RPG. Heart Gold and Soul Silver were still top-down RPGs.
Yes.
X and Y shifted the camera a little bit, but at the end of the day, X, Y, and Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire still basically top-down RPGs.
You get, like, ORAS is more one-to-one than you think it is. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And what people are looking... Sword and Shield is a totally different looking engine and different style of game. And they would probably have to really satisfy what people would want, is some of the areas would have to be wild areas.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you're asking for, like, who knows what part of Sinnoh to be a full 3D camera area, and I get why people would want that, but I also don't know if that's within, like, the purview of the type
remake.
of video game that Game Freak makes, especially if it's a remake.
Well, I feel like we're getting that through Legends, right?
Yeah, we're getting that with Legends.
We're getting
to,
sure, but I mean,
to an extent, right? Like obviously,
Well,
like, it's not
because-
gonna have all the places that are in Hisui is very purposefully like look at Jubilife, right? Jubilife is tiny compared to, I mean, not in scope, but like in, there's not much.
There is one town. It's a Monster Hunter, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
in Monster Hunter there's a town, in Legends there's going to be a town. But like the thing I always heard, because like James was saying, is that Mount Coronet. I want to see Mount Coronet as a wild area, right?
but I don't.
Well, it's that funny thing, is you talk about how you worry in a Sword and Shield remake that the roots would get squashed, right? But also playing these games where your character runs quickly, like in this game, right? I forget how small roots are in this game too, right? Like you can blow through some of these roots in literally 15 seconds,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
I think that's the biggest thing that's kind of shocked me, because in my hazy memory of Sinnoh, it was the gold standard of region design in Pokemon, right? And going through it again in 2021 has made me realize, oh, like, not really.
That's because
like,
you were 10.
Yeah, exactly, right? But yeah, I'm realizing that playing through these games again now, it's like, as an adult, it's like, oh, like, these routes are smaller than I remember them being. Like Will said, part of it is that it's just the game's faster, right? Like, you go at a faster speed than you did back on the DS. But the routes are smaller than I remember. Also, the quote-unquote open section between, like, Hearthome and, like, Pastoria is kind of like the worst balanced area in Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the level balancing is all over the place, right?
Well, the level balancing in this game in general is all over the place, and I imagine we'll probably get to that later, but...
No, yeah, let's just get into it now. Let's talk
if
about
I
the level
want
balancing.
if I want to complain about something, it's the fact that like in like post 7th gem game areas, you're still running into like Geodudes and
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I couldn't remember if that's the way it was in Diamond and Pearl originally. But you're running into all, and not just wild Pokemon, but trainers that have these unevolved Pokemon. Hell,
Yeah.
Oh my god, dog! There was a guy in the Galactic base that had a level 40 Wurmple.
well, yeah.
level-
Don't even get me
like-
started on Team Galactic. Like, if those dudes are Pokemon thieves, then they're like literally targeting children.
They're
I
just
think.
targeting
Yeah.
10-year-olds, they are like literal, like, I caught my first Pokemon, they're targeting those guys,
Yeah, and-
like, they have the shittiest Pokemon. Yeah, the level balancing in this game, and this is true to Diamond and Pearl, like, every trainer has the exact loadout that they had in Diamond and Pearl, every route has the exact encounter rates that were in Diamond and Pearl, level and everything. The level balancing in this game is wild. Like, it is so bad, actually.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's because I watched some of James' stream, and early on especially, you can get over leveled, right? If you're because with the box in the bag, I was doing a Nuzlocke, so I was sort of not my goal. I had the rule you can't get over leveled versus the next gym leader, right? So when everyone would hit a level, I would just pop in someone else to have them train up, right? But then like around halfway through, because everyone's so much lower level than you, you're not gaining experience. You're not like suddenly you're like, wait a minute, now levels are like a precious commodity again because you're fighting no one that gives you anything good, and then that ultimately reaches a huge spike when you come to the end, right? Where the Elite Four is like a 10 level jump and Cynthia is a 5 level jump on top of them.
And it especially
And so-
doesn't help that so many of the late game areas leading up to the Victory Road and Elite Four, you're only fighting Team Galactic people. Like at the Three Lakes and their hideout and the warehouse, all those places, it's like you're fighting Wurmples and Zubats at like level 50, and it's like, are you kidding me?
they do not give enough experience. Like, it's so weird that they have these unevolved Pokemon for so late. Like, it's a very strange decision, and so yeah, that leads to like a crazy difficulty spike at the end, right? Because like you're not really prepared for the Elite Four,
Yeah.
The
And
first
in general, sorry, go ahead.
The first time I made it to the Elite Four, I limped through it, and then got just like annihilated by Cynthia.
By Cynthia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in general in this game, especially in the later half, like gym leaders are more of a challenge than like the rest of the game by a pretty decent margin, right? Like you can still stomp them if you are getting really over leveled, right? But like they have items, right? Like if something is 4 times weak to a thing that you think I'm going to one shot this guy, they give them the berry that makes it where they take half damage, right? Like there is enough that they sort of add on to. But then when you put all those things in a row and you add that stuff onto Cynthia, who was already a hard fight, right? Cynthia suddenly becomes like, even in just mainline Pokemon, one of the hardest fights, let alone in the post game where she is like definitively the hardest trainer battle in Pokemon at this point.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, I mean, it's, say what you will, she had a reputation and she has maintained that reputation, you know, like in the remake.
Well, even the early gym leaders spam potions.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me. I don't think they did that in the original game. I'm not sure. They certainly don't do them in the more recent games where like the first 3 gem leaders will be like, yeah, I'll just throw super potion whenever you get this guy low. It's like you got to play that Pokemon the like small meta game in your head of like, well, if I'm not gonna one shot this, I better not get him into red.
Don't get him in potion range, because
yeah. It's like it's better to do half his health bar than 3/4 of his health bar if you're not gonna get the whole thing. I actually lost to Gardenia, the second gem leader, though, because I rolled up there with a Bibarel, a Prinpulp, and one other Pokemon. I don't remember which, and Grassnot just
destroyed them.
Yeah, dude, that Roserade was insane. I was like, all right, well, I guess this game's not fooling around. But then after her, it was pretty much smooth sailing to the end.
Well, see, it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned Roserade, because, like, you think about it, like, Gardenia is the second gym leader, has a Roserade. Maylene is the third gym leader, has a Lucario, right? But then the late game trainers are having these shitty Zubats.
Well, but then what's interesting is Cynthia has a Roserade and a Lucario as well.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like having a PTSD nightmare at the very end. What was another thing that I found really... So you said that the trainers all have the exact same loadouts, level, and everything as their original?
Yeah.
Their movesets are different sometimes, but yeah, mostly they're the same.
Again, this is something I just didn't remember unless Platinum maybe smoothed it out.
Well, I think Platinum changed a lot of that.
But gym leaders would have Pokemon that were like literally 5+ levels higher than any of the minions in the gym.
Yeah.
Which I found to be like kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, the gym leaders in this game are always like a weird difficulty spike, right? Where it's just like even within their gym, it's just this huge bump, right? And it was such a weird thing to encounter, because it was like it would kind of take me aback, because I was like, oh, I'm just kind of like destroying everything, and then I get to the gym and I get my shit kicked in, you know, like
it's because that's also true of like the galactic admins, right? Like I think for a lot of people as kids and even now, that like the first time you see that Perugly, you're like stomping the game and suddenly that Perugly is like level like 20 when everything else is level 12, and you're like, wait a minute, what's happening here?
And then that's also a tank.
Yeah.
It's just that cat is healthy as hell.
That cat is healthy.
But it's like, and I don't want to like sound like, I know a lot of people want Pokemon to be harder, but like, this isn't difficulty, right? Like, that Pokemon is faster than anything you can do, and Grassnot one-shots of water Pokemon. That's not difficulty. That's just like...
It's just bad balancing. It's
just wonky balancing.
Yeah. Like, the level balancing in these games are just weird, you know? And I would echo that's kind of been my core complaint, but it's also just been fascinating to kind of look at, right? Also, it's just been like, huh. Okay, so this is how it was.
It's and this sounds mean. I feel like, you know, but I don't mean it to be. But Diamond and Pearl, and so in a lot of ways BDSP, right? There's parts of it that aren't changed. Feels like a first draft. It feels like, hey, which is probably true to life, because Diamond and Pearl is one of the few Pokemon games to get like a delay, right? To have like a clear development trouble and we're not hitting this date that we thought we were going to hit. And so like, you know, and that's why like Platinum, as in terms of third versions, is viewed as one of the biggest gaps between the original and the second, is because I feel like if they had had a second look, they would have been like, oh, wait a minute, these levels are weird. Oh, wait a minute, you know, there's no Pokemon on this route, right? Like all this other stuff that are now common complaints, they are also aware of, which does make the decision to sort of go back to them weird. But yeah.
I mean, if those were the types of things that people were complaining about when they were complaining about having no Platinum content in the game, I'm a little more empathetic to that. But the only thing I ever hear people complain about is there's no Battle Frontier, and I'm like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
You're one of the like 0.01% of Pokemon players that actually engaged with the Battle Frontier. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't include things for that 0.01% of Pokemon players, but you also have to understand the developers have to prioritize their times.
Yeah. Like, my thing has always been, like, for Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, right? Like, not having the Battle Frontier sucks, but the Delta episode is way more in line with what most people would want out of a Pokemon postgame, right?
Right, and my argument's always been that the people that like Battle Frontier should just play online.
Sure. But the post game of this game I think is interesting, right? Because it is arguably the most towards that group of people that post game has been for a while.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, you know, I think the post game BDSP is actually so fascinating because it is I mean, Cynthia, the post game, because you can fight everyone once, rematch, and then they use their platinum teams, and then another rematch where they have like new teams, right?
Competitive teams that are like
EV trained, you know.
That's cool.
Using competitive strategies, like it's and so Cynthia is the hardest fight. The second rematch Cynthia in this game is the hardest fight in the series by far. There's nothing that even comes close, you know. It also has the hardest wild Pokemon in the series. I guess spoilers, but
next 15 seconds of spoilers. Yeah.
But Giratina, there's a level 100 Giratina in this game. There's never been a level 100 wild Pokemon, you know?
Wow.
And so that, you know, the post game, and also the post game has, you know, they replaced Pal Park with this, like, I don't remember what it's called, but where all the legendaries are found, right? Yeah. And so it does feel like this time, because I think Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, I think Delta episode people like, but like they felt like it was not a proper replacement for Battle Frontier, right? At least the hardcore fans. I feel like even as much as I missed the Battle Frontier, I actually quite like this post game. I think this post game is like pretty interesting. Yeah. It also, I mean, with the Underground, with post game Underground, you can catch all 493 as far as I know, excluding Mythicals. I think, as far as I know, you can catch all 493 original Gen 1 through 4 Pokemon just between Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Including, like, all the starters. You can catch the starters from Gen 1 through 4 in the Underground.
Oh, that's cool.
I think it's a post game that's honestly good because it captures the two sides of Pokemon, pardon the phrase. But, like, you know, there is a thing for battling if you want to do just, you know, because, like, frankly, if you were not EV training your Pokemon through the main playthrough,
which
you need to train up a new team for that post game, basically, right? And then for that type of people, they have that. And then for the people that are, you know, the catch-em-all group of people, right, that are just like, I love Pokemon, to have that living dex in my PC. The Grand Underground's great for that. Right, and in general, I just like the Grand Underground.
Yeah, I thought the Underground was cool. I haven't actually delved into the post game like at all yet. I intend to, but the Underground was cool for just even a casual playthrough of the game, because you hop down there and you find all these Pokemon that aren't on the routes, which is nice, and it's like that you can get a Gibble down there.
Yeah,
and you don't have to worry about finding a Gibble in that weird little cave that's tucked under Cycling Road or wherever the hell it is. And like you don't have to wait for this like crazy like 10% spawn rate or whatever it is.
Yeah, the fact that you can catch all sorts of crazy Pokemon in the underground makes for playing through the game like a lot of like I that because honestly to me the biggest improvement between Diamond and Pearl to Platinum is the kinds of Pokemon you can catch. You know, I mean, infamously, right? If you don't pick Chimchar in Diamond and Pearl, the only fire type available to you is Rapidash. That is it in the entire uh, um, game before the post game, and the underground kind of solves that, right? You can catch a Houndoom in Shining Pearl. You can even catch a Magby that tends to hold the item it needs to become a Magmortar.
Yeah, but then you have to have a Magmortar, and no one.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
No one really wants that.
But Houndoom's pretty cool.
Houndoom is cool.
The fact that I had a Houndoom on my team and I was pretty happy.
Yeah, I had that where I had the little Magby, which by the way Magby evolves at level 30, which is absurd for a baby, but that's an aside. I had the Magby following behind me, which is another new thing, right? And it's like, oh, it's this cute little guy. And then I hit level 30, it evolves, and suddenly Magmar's behind me, and it goes from being a cute, like, thing walking behind you to this big man chasing you, and you're like, this is a nightmare suddenly. It went from being a cute game to being a horror game.
Well, if you have a Magmar following you, you should run, first of all.
Yeah. And but it's also funny, because the way he chases after you is like he's sprinting. He's a nightmare. He's a nightmare creature. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I had a shiny Magmar spawn on me in Let's Go Eevee. And I was like, do I even want this pink monster? He charged at me, and I got in the battle, and I was like, well, I guess I don't have a choice.
I guess I'm catching this thing, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to your point, Mina, about the Pokemon variety. I mean, Pokemon is among my more replayed franchises, and I generally almost never repeat Pokemon in playthroughs, right? Mm-hmm. Gen 4 is hard to do that.
Oh, it's very hard to do that in Gen 4, especially if you're, without the underground editions, it's hard to do that because, like, oh my god, I feel like you're finding Bidoofs and Starlies way past the point you should be finding Bidoofs and Starlies.
You absolutely are.
It's the encounter rates are ridiculous in this game. It's funny because Will, you said you were doing a Nuzlocke, and you were saying how like part of the Nuzlocke is it's the first new encounter you find, right? But it took you forever because you just kept running into Bibberells.
Yeah, there are some routes, the honest to God, in the later part of the game where there was no new encounters. I could not get a new Pokemon for my team that was not a duplicate. So I was just like, well, the last thing I got had a bad nature, so I guess I'll just fuck around and catch another Snover, right? Which is sort of, I think that's a sign of a problem,
Oh, yeah.
If you want to be catching Pokemon, you want to be catching new Pokemon, right? Because the other thing that they do in this game, and Gen 7 has a similar problem, is that they gate a lot of new Pokemon in the overworld behind, like, the honey trees, and, like, Drifloon only shows up on Fridays, and Gibble's in one specific room, right? Which is fine for a pseudo-legendary. But, like, half the new Pokemon are fucking weirdo encounters that, like, you would just never encounter normally unless you know to hunt for them.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So having them just be... Because Combi, right, and, like, all these other things are just now just in the underground. And that makes those issues be way alleviated in comparison,
For sure.
Yeah, I didn't have a 6th Pokemon until after the 7th gym. Like,
yeah, same.
Team.
I caught my 7th Pokemon. I mean, my 6th Pokemon after the 7th gym because I was just like, I can't find anything I want to use.
Me neither. I was like, well, at this point, I think I'm just gonna go for a Garchomp, and I was like, I remember that Gibble is only in like one specific spot, so I looked it up online, and I was like, oh, Gibbles are in the underground. I guess I'll go there instead of that one spot because I bet it's gonna be level matched. And indeed, it was level matched, which made leveling it.
Oh yeah, see that's another benefit. Yeah, that's another benefit of the underground is that they're higher level because as we talked before, the wild Pokemon are pathetically low, right?
Yeah, I didn't even actually end up getting a Gibble. It was a Gabite already. And it was a high enough level that I leveled it once and it evolved into Garchomp, and I was like, well.
this works. I'm
This
not
works
complaining.
for me, yeah, exactly. Because it's like you have flashbacks to, again, Pokemon Red and Blue trying to level a Dragonair up just for that disappointment. But what I found really irritating was just like I run this whole game and like I knew I wanted a Mismagius because I always run a ghost and Mismagius is like one of the coolest ghosts.
Oh yeah,
And
that was the first time I've used that one actually.
I knew I was
I had a
I
good
knew I
time
was
with
going to
it.
use my starter, and I knew I was going to use a Bibarel because it's funny, and because it's like super iconic of Gen 4 to have a Bidoof
Absolutely.
guy in your team.
Mhm.
And it was like finding Pokemon after that was like really hard. I had a Ponyta in my team for the longest time that I didn't really want, but it was the only thing that really was interesting.
I mean,
It
again,
made
especially
any
for
sense.
fire types, right? Like, what are you gonna do? That's your only option. Let's go in underground, you know?
Well, yeah, and it's like I either wanted because you need something that's decent against grass, and it's like I either need to get a fire type, a flying type, or a bug type. And I'm not the biggest fan of Staravia. Like I don't hate him or anything, but he's not my favorite bird, like normal bird.
Yeah, yeah.
And all the bugs in the game are cool looking. Like I like Beautifly and Dustox and Vespiquen, but Beautifly and Dustox are like pathetically weak, like borderline unusable.
Yeah.
And like Will said, getting a Vespiquen is like a process that I don't really feel like going through. I didn't realize Combees were in the underground. Maybe if I had known that, I would have gone that route. But yeah, it was like getting a full team together was like way more difficult than I would have wanted it to be.
Mhm.
And especially trying to use different types of Pokemon than I have before, which I really didn't end up doing, which is kind of the first time that I've used Pokemon that I've used heavily in the past.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I generally don't use Pokemon, but I was finding myself, like, I had used Houndoom in Platinum, I had used, um, uh, uh, Staraptor before, I had used Luxray before. It was like I was going through Pokemon that I had already used back in Gen 4 because there's just really not that many options in Gen 4.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not that I don't like the Gen 4 Pokemon. The new ones are good.
it's
but
just
they're-
hard.
but-
Again, they just make it obnoxiously hard to find them.
And so
right?
many of them just aren't in the game until it's over.
Until post game, yeah. I want to talk about something I did really like, and that is the underground. So we talked about like how. So first of all, the fact that it bumps up the Pokemon variety a bunch, fantastic. I love that, especially because they are correctly leveled, right?
Yes.
So that is very important. That's very nice.
Yeah.
The other thing I really like about the underground is the multiplayer features. So I had done a decent amount, and it's very simplistic to be honest with you.
Mhm.
It's you're just kind of digging for like fossils or like plates or whatever, right? Evolution stones, but it's a fun little group activity. They also have this little thing where there's Diglets leave like little treasures, I guess, on the ground. Not really treasures, but like they add to a meter, right? And if you get to 40, and everyone who picks one up, like it counts towards a collective goal, right? So the more people you have in the underground, the better. Because when you get to 40, for the next 4 minutes, the shiny encounter rate doubles. You know,
Mhm.
and
And you
I
have a
thought,
higher chance of getting the shiny boxes too from digging.
yeah, and I thought that was a fun little feature. You know, I will say the one thing I think that they missed when it comes to multiplayer on this game. I really like the idea of just putting like a group code and then you're good, right? I kind of wish the underground was just your central hub for all things multiplayer, though. You know, it would have
Yeah.
been nice if you could just trade and battle within the underground rather than having to go back up and then go into the Union Room.
Yeah.
Which thankfully they did. Because in the original you'd go into the Union Room to do multiplayer features, so you'd have to go to a Pokemon Center, right? And now they just made it. You just press the Y button and it's right there, right? So
Yeah.
anywhere in the overworld, as long as you're not indoors, you can access the Union Room. But I wish that they had just made the underground this all encompassing, like this is your hub for multiplayer. have the Union Room too. It just has a dedicated space, but it would have been nice to just be able to do everything from one spot. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I did think it was neat because I joined a randoms just an open room for the first time a couple days ago after my coworker mentioned it to me because he's a big shiny guy, and it was super cool because essentially there was like I don't even know how many there was a lot of people in there, and that Diglett meter was always full, right? Because everyone just knew. Because it all pulls together, and when someone would leave, their like Diglett like count would disappear from the total, and it was just this understanding. It was like everyone was just like sort of working together as this like little ant colony, getting all the Dittos, going inside, and then like it would start to go down. Like one or two people would go out, and they would like there was almost this like unofficial like taking turns to go out and collect Dittos while everyone else got to shiny hunt. And I thought like, oh, this is a very cool like through no communication, just through like the little like tags you can have over your head. Like 30 people were all working towards one goal at one time, which was a cool thing in like a Pokemon game,
Yeah, that is neat. I also, like, you described your coworker as a big shiny guy, and I'm just imagining this man glistening.
Just a very greasy boy. You
Yeah.
can see him coming.
But I actually didn't know that that's what the Diglett meter was for. I didn't play any multiplayer. I played this game mostly on stream, so I was playing single player pretty much the whole time. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering what those Diglets did, but that's cool that it doubles the shiny rate. And I think it's kind of neat that Game Freak and I guess Ilka to an extent, but I imagine something like that's probably something they had to like clear with Game Freak or whatever. They've kind of accepted that the shiny economy is broken at this point.
Oh yeah,
completely and totally busted because people cheat them. So it's neat that they continuously seem to add in different ways to like make shiny hunting in game a little more like streamlined.
Yeah,
people that want to get one like in a more legitimate fashion.
If you really want to, like the newer games have really made it so it is a feasible thing you could do. Obviously, it's still gonna take work, right? But you could feasibly shiny hunt for sure.
A lot of it comes down now more to patience and
yes,
and than it does to like pure luck, which I think is kind of neat. Because
if you want a good thing,
yeah, me too. If you want a Masta method breed. It doesn't take too much to get your hands on a Japanese Ditto, or any region Ditto rather, other than your own, and And
I think chaining is a nice way to go about shiny hunting because it's more interactive, right? If breeding is not your thing, right? Chaining and then having this weird underground method is also just a fun little like why not, right?
Mm-hmm. I think it's cool.
I like that they've progressively just made shiny hunting easier because, like you said, cheaters have kind of already like blown it open. Like if there's so many hacked shinies out there, may as well make the rest of us who are playing the game legitimately be able to conceivably get a shiny.
Yeah, I think it's just smart game design.
100%.
It's
still something you have to work for, but it is like so it's still a treat, right? But it is a treat that you can.
It's an obtainable version.
Yeah.
Of a treat.
Yeah.
And it's one of those rare instances where a Nintendo company will look at what the community is doing to maybe like make a decision based on how their game is designed. Like I think the Animal Crossing team kind of did that too because. You notice there's a lot more things to spin bells on in Animal Crossing, and it's because they know everyone goes to other people's islands to sell turnips.
Yeah.
It's just smart. I appreciate it when developers do things like that.
For sure. All right. Well, do we have any closing thoughts on these games?
Yeah, sure. I feel like I may have sounded a little negative throughout this because I mostly talked about the things I didn't like. I still really enjoyed playing it because it's still Pokemon. The core of Pokemon is like timeless, really. It's like Dragon Quest, and that they have figured out that how this battle system works, and how it's like they don't make a lot of changes to the core design of the battles because they've hammered it down to what works and what doesn't. And like I said before, just the vibes of Sinnoh are borderline unparalleled, I think. music-wise. Like, I don't know if you noticed these little things, but how often did you play, like, in the early evening?
All the time.
Did you notice
Because-
how pretty everything looks, like, right at the
Yes.
sunset
Yes.
time?
Yeah.
Like, all of the battle arenas have this gorgeous, like, orange sky, and, like, everything just looks really, really nice. And it, like, people were down on how the game looked, and I'll be honest, I think some of the chibi models look a little strange. Cynthia and Rowan's, their heads are huge. It looks ridiculous.
I have to say, the cutscenes I found hilarious in this game.
Yeah, they were fun. They were funny in kind of a weird, unintentional way. Like Cyrus looks like a Funko Pop. Dude.
Cyrus he does. He looks like a Funko Pop,
and it can be kind of bad. But like, I actually think that the other character models, the battle ones, are actually really good.
Yes,
I think that the way that they've animated them to have different ways they throw out the Pokeballs. The first time that I saw the fisherman like throw out the Pokeball with the fishing rod, I was like, oh, that's really good. Or when the karate guy kind of just does like a force push with his hand and it comes flying out. That's very funny. But going back to just the environments and everything, the with the music and the sunset vibes when you play in the evening, it's just a comfy region to be in. I really, really just enjoyed exploring that world, even if the encounters were a little bit lackluster because the Pokemon weren't there to keep things interesting. The one thing, and then one last thing, whoever taught Earthquake to basically every Pokemon in the Elite Four can get bent. I hate it. Like every time you throw out a Pokemon, it's like, oh, Drapion's out, Earthquake. Oh, it's like everything new Earthquake. It felt like every single Elite Four member had at least one or two Pokemon that knew Earthquake. And I was so tired of it. I had so many Pokemon that were weak to ground. Empoleon is weak to ground. Why is ground weak to steel? I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. He's weak to it, though. It's why my Mismagius was like level 75 by the end of the game. It's because it had Levitate and it couldn't get hit by Earthquake.
You know? Your MVP
Those are my
right
closing
there,
thoughts. Music, good. Environment's good. Pokemon's fun to play. Earthquake can kiss my ass.
Pretty good closing thoughts. Will, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, this is like a game that does not aspire to reinvent the world, right? But like, it turns out that sometimes, like James said, Pokemon's so solid that it doesn't have to. And going back and sort of appreciating the classics of Pokemon is now like a thing that more and more people are able to do and appreciate. So, I mean, we've seen this like, even though it's like not like the craziest game in the world, it is just like James was saying, such a pleasant game to play, right? Like, the vibes are so good and everything that he said was correct about the music and the region. So it's like, it kind of is like perfect for December, right? Like it's Christmas and you got like the lights up and you're playing Pokemon and you're feeling real good inside, you know?
Yeah, I think for me, this has been a nostalgic romp. It has opened my eyes a little bit to what was wrong with Diamond and Pearl. But again, they really, honestly, like, again, I think we talked a lot about the faults of this game, but I really didn't have, I had a really good time with it, genuinely. Like, I was, like, those are things like nitpicky stuff for the most part, but I just, honestly, I felt I felt good playing these games. I felt like, like I said at the beginning, it just felt like this very comfy, cozy, like, oh man, having Pokemon in like a classic style, it felt good. It was a nice run through. It was also just interesting to see what Diamond and Pearl were like, and it's a very cute game, adding the clothing options, having the Pokemon fall around you, and just the whole style of the game. It's just very cute,
Oh, I forgot about the clothing options, dude.
Yeah.
Some of those fits were like out of control cool.
Oh yeah.
The minute I had 140,000 Pokebucks, I bought that Honchkrow.
You bought that,
dude.
yeah, same,
Yeah.
absolutely. I spent all my money on that.
Also, that remix of the Game Center that plays in the boutique,
It's very
Oh,
good.
It's
God
so good.
damn, dude.
Yes, that is incredible remix.
So kind of
It
as a
is-
slight epilogue thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, a little side thing. I love now whenever they do remakes how they're like, what the fuck are we gonna turn the game center into? Like we have to
Oh,
make it
yeah.
something because we can't gamble anymore. And this was among the best versions of it. I loved that whole room and stuff.
So I know we just did closing thoughts, but I think as a slight epilogue before we sign off here, what do you think of the potential of Ilka handling Unova next?
Ooh.
Do you think that that's going to be good? Do you think that's going to be disappointing? Do you expect them to?
I don't. Okay, so in this scenario, do we expect Game Freak to also be working on some sort of game with Unova, like the way they're doing with Sinnoh?
Well, I think it probably depends on how well Legends Arceus does, right?
Sure. Okay. And I'm not even saying necessarily like a Pokemon Legends game, right? But just Game Freak is doing something with Unova while Ilka does whatever.
Right.
One remake, right?
That's kind of what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
I would expect maybe a Legends whatever, Reshiram or whatever, maybe if that does well enough.
Okay. Here. I have something crazy. Okay.
All right, hit me.
So Ilka's gonna remake Pokemon Black and White 1 and 2. Okay.
And Game Freak's gonna remake Black and White too.
No. Ilka's gonna do both 1 and 2.
Okay.
And then Game Freak is going to make a brand new like Sword and Shield style Pokemon Black and White 3.
3. Okay, I mean,
that is my official prediction.
That would be dude,
Wow, what an
that'd be
official
pretty
prediction.
hot. That desert area in the center being like a wild area style thing.
Yeah.
You run into a Koffagrigus out there and you're haunted for the rest of your life.
you're dead.
Pretty sick.
Yeah, I mean, on a wider scope, I hope that Ilka keeps doing the remakes, right? First and foremost, because I think that freeing up Game Freak to do a weird thing in between gens is more interesting to me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think that if I'm setting my expectations accordingly, I think that Black and White 1 will be the thing that is remade, right? And maybe Black and White 2 stuff might be included as post-game stuff, right? But obviously, like, parts of it, not the whole game, because it wouldn't make sense. But, like, in my brain, I don't know why, but I think of Unova as still being one of the more, like, modern regions. So I feel like if
it's
you're
only
doing
a decade
the past,
old, bro.
well, sure. but I feel like it would be cool if they did, like, a, like, near future Pokemon game, right? Because, like, I think that would be neat. But maybe that's just because it's like, well, the last one was in the past, so this one's in the future, which is hacky. But I think
but what's the future mean to Pokemon?
my brain just thinks of Castalia and it being like fucking Chrome.
Okay. Because we've seen what like retro futurism looks like with the Team Galactic
With the
outfits.
Team Galactic, sure. We don't.
And I'm
the
not
Jetsons aesthetic.
Yeah, they look like they fell out of the Jetsons like ripoff, and I'm not a big fan, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like that in near future though, right? Like in the it's been enough time since then that and inherently I think doing Unova in a 3D style will just look very different, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So I think that would be cool. But yeah, I want Ilka to do. I like the idea of. To me, this is the best of both worlds, right? To have a faithful 1-to-1 remake, but also do something cool and interesting with the region. Game Freak does something wild, right? I think that is like the best of both worlds. You know, you're getting to see the old region you love so much in a new light, and you also get to see it how it was. You know, and I think that's just perfect. You know,
Yeah.
My actual
sure.
answer is my expectations for Gen 5 remakes is that I won't log on the internet for a year and a half.
Yeah,
That's my actual.
That is.
Yeah, I'm just gonna word filter Pokemon off Twitter. I don't even want to see it.
I might not even be able to look at Discord when Black and White.
So I guess another quick question, another quick addendum is so Legends Arceus doesn't have like multiplayer, right? Like no
Correct.
online battles or anything.
No, it just has trading. Yeah.
I really do wonder what that means for Gen 9. Like, I don't know. Pokemon's in kind of a weird spot right now. Are they only gonna do these weird like experimental games in the remake years? Are they going to implement any of this weird experimental stuff into the mainline games when they get back to them?
It's
I don't
a
know.
great question.
I'm really interested in seeing what Gen 9 looks
I mean-
like, and I don't think we're going to see that really probably until 2023.
Yeah, I think Gen 9 is very much a 2023 game. And like, I guess, like, real, like, actual closing thought here. I think Pokemon is just in a very interesting place.
Agreed.
On the Switch.
That's kind of why I wanted to talk about those two things before we hopped off.
Yeah, you know, like Pokemon is just like, you know, I have never felt like so fascinated by what's coming next because, you know, to an extent Pokemon has been kind of predictable, right? And
To an extent?
Well, yeah.
To an extent?
Very much so.
The only
right?
thing that was weird was Let's Go. Everything else followed a very distinct pattern for the last almost 30
but then
years.
Well, I feel like Gen 7's where it starts, right? Because there's no Z. They're like, we're not doing a fucking third version anymore. We're just going, right? And then from that point onwards, the Switch era has just been fucking.
But the Switch
No,
era was
but-
wild because we got DLC, we got Let's Go, we got these like one-to-one like top-down remakes that are not in the same style. We're getting Legends, which is a single-player game going back to an old region, right? So like Pokemon, like, and I think like really like what I have liked most about the Switch era of Pokemon is all 4 Pokemon games on the Switch have such a distinct look to them.
Yeah.
You know, you look at them, you know which game it is, right? Like it's just they look so fucking different from each other. And they're covering different bases.
stuff out of them. Yeah.
And I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
And real quick, the no Z thing kind of went out the window when they made Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon.
Sure, but yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it did. Yes, it did break the pattern, but it also they also just kind of fell right back on it immediately.
Yeah. Though, I mean, that might be because Switch, right? Like, new console, so they're like, let's just get fucking this thing out while we're having to work on the new thing.
Yeah.
But it's that thing of just, like, it feels, you know, like, when the Switch, it enters this full swing of just, I don't know where it goes. I don't know what to predict. No one predicted Legends, right? So, like, it's hard to guess.
Yeah. So Pokemon is in a very interesting place right now. Well,
yeah, I agree.
that is the podcast for this week. I want to thank my 2 special guests for joining me today to talk about Pokemon. If you like listening to this podcast, we are, usually Clay's here to do the plugs. Sadly, I have to do them this time. So let me see if I can remember everything. We are on pretty much every podcast listening service known to man. So, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Pocket Casts, whatever. You can find us where you can find a podcast. We're also on YouTube. Check us out on YouTube. Just search up Nintendo Pipeline on any of these. Nintendo Pipeline Podcast. We have a blog that barely gets used anymore, but we do put podcast episodes up on it, at least. I think that's nintendoera.wordpress.com. If I get this wrong, someone will get mad at me, so sorry. And otherwise, I think that's it. We're here every week. If you have any ideas, any feedback for us, be sure to join our Discord. That's important. The Nintendo Pipeline Discord. We have like 2,000 people in there. Love to have you in there. And just give us feedback. What do you want? What do you want us to talk about? Who do you want on? Maybe you want to be on. Let us know. Yeah, we have a thread on FamiBoards. FamiBoards.com. You can find a thread on there. And I think that's about it for the plugs. Once again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Later.
Have a good one.